Russians are benefiting from what is happening currently in the Middle East. Bloc is being built between these three authoritarian states. While the world is distracted, Russia is busy making new friends. This is the main message of the new foreign policy concept of Russia, which was approved by President Vladimir Putin in March of 2023. The document outlines Russia's vision of a multipolar world order, where the United States and its allies are no longer the dominant players and Russia can forge strategic partnerships with emerging powers like China and India. The concept also reflects Russia's dissatisfaction with the West, which it accuses of imposing its values and interest on other countries, violating international law, and undermining global stability. Russia has just made another move, and this one has gotten the attention of the West. What has Russia just done? And what implications will it have for the global balance of power? Join us as we take a look at how Russia just made another move while the world was distracted. India recently hosted the G20 summit, which is a forum for the leaders of the world's major economies to discuss global issues and coordinate policies. However, the summit was notable for the absence of two key leaders, the Chinese and Russian presidents. Xi Putin and Vladimir Putin decided to skip the summit and instead hold a bilateral meeting in Beijing, where they reaffirmed their strategic partnership and signed a number of agreements. This absence underscores a growing in international politics between the West and East, with clear implications for Northeast Asia. In this region, Cold War-era alliances are making a comeback as Russia and China strengthen their ties with North Korea, a rogue state that poses a nuclear threat to its neighbors and the U.S. These developments occur against the backdrop of increased international pressure on Russia due to its 2022 invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing conflict there. The U.S. and its allies have imposed sanctions on Russia and provided military and diplomatic support to Ukraine, while threatening Russia's aggression and violation of international law. Russia has responded by accusing the West of meddling in its affairs and seeking to contain its influence. Simultaneously, China is grappling with heightened restrictions on its access to technology, especially from the U.S., which has banned the export of certain products and services to Chinese companies over national security and human rights concerns. China has denounced the U.S. actions as unfair and discriminatory and has vowed to develop its own technological capabilities and innovation. The shifting alliances among China, North Korea, and Russia are not just regional dynamics. They carry significant global implications. Now, Russia has made another interesting move. It has sent some warships from its Pacific naval fleet to dock at Bangladesh's port of Chattogram, the country's largest seaport and a vital gateway to trade and commerce. The warships include two anti-submarine warfare ships, Admiral Tribes and Admiral Pantaleov, and a tanker, Pachinga. They arrived at Chattogram just days after Myanmar and Russia conducted their first joint naval exercises in the on-demand sea. The visit of the Russian warships is a sign of the deepening ties between Bangladesh and Russia, which have maintained good relations despite Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which began in February of 2022. Moscow is building the South Asian nation's only nuclear power plant, the Rupert Nuclear Power Plant, and will deliver the country's first uranium shipment in October of 2022. The nuclear project is expected to enhance Bangladesh's energy, security, and economic development. The Russian embassy in Dhaka hailed the visit as a huge milestone for Russia-Bangladesh relations. The visit also reflects Russia's interest in expanding its presence and influence in the Indo-Pacific region, where it faces competition from other major powers such as the United States and India. By engaging with Bangladesh, a populous and fast-growing country, Russia hopes to gain access to new markets and opportunities. Also, by cooperating with Bangladesh on naval and security issues, Russia aims to strategic position in the Bay of Bengal, a critical waterway for trade and energy flows, and to challenge the US-led Quad Alliance, which seeks to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. Russia's strategic relationship with North Korea and China is also something to keep tabs on, especially for South Korea. The recent announcement of a trilateral partnership between Japan, South Korea, and the United States at Camp David in August may seem like a catalyst that spurred closer relations between China, North Korea, and Russia. However, this is not the whole story. The growing bond between the three countries is the result of a series of events that have raised security concerns in their capitals and pushed them to seek mutual support. The Japan, South Korea, US trilateral was just the last straw that broke the camel's back. The first event that triggered a renewed interest and cooperation among China, North Korea, and Russia was the introduction of the Indo-Pacific concept, which emerged as a strategic vision for the region. Beijing and Moscow were angry and wary of the concept, which they perceived as a new Cold War strategy to contain China's rise. North Korea also aligned itself with Beijing and Moscow in their opposition. However, China did not initially react strongly against the Indo-Pacific concept. Some in Beijing saw it as a temporary and superficial part of then U.S. President Donald Trump's foreign policy rhetoric. The second trigger was the normalization of relations between Seoul and Tokyo earlier this year. The two countries decided to put aside their historical grievances and work together to deal with the North Korean menace. But this move also alarmed Beijing, which suspected that the partnership might have ulterior motives or hidden agendas against China. The suspicion grew stronger when the U.S. joined its two allies in conducting joint military drills in the region. The expanding ties between Japan and South Korea with NATO also fueled the distrust. Meanwhile, Japan was flexing its muscles and asserting its role as a regional power. Its National Security Strategy and Defense White Paper, released earlier this year, outlined its ambitious plans to enhance its defense capabilities and security cooperation. Beijing saw this as a clear sign of the changing balance of power in the region and the growing challenge from the US-led coalition. China felt increasingly isolated and threatened by the united front of the US-Japan and South Korea. The final nail in the coffin was the trilateral summit at Camp David, where the three leaders of Japan, South Korea, and the United States met and declared their common resolve to counter North Korea. The summit also witnessed an unprecedented joint statement denouncing China's actions in the South China Sea, which Beijing considered to be its core interest. But the most significant outcome of the summit was the establishment of a regular consultation mechanism and a comprehensive agenda for the trilateral cooperation. This showed that the alliance was not just a temporary arrangement to cope with the North Korean crisis, but a long-term strategic partnership to address a wide range of regional and global issues, such as the economy, cyber intelligence, and security. The recent summit between China, North Korea, and Russia has reshaped the regional dynamics in East Asia. According to sources, China initiated a dialogue with North Korea after the meeting, asserting its role as the leader of the alliance. North Korea, meanwhile, seeks to enhance its security by aligning itself with China and Russia, who share its opposition to U.S. influence. Russia, on the other hand, is eager to strengthen its partnership with China, as evidenced by the visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Moscow. Wang Yi stated that China and Russia should continue to strengthen strategic cooperation in the face of bilateral actions, hegemony, and confrontation. Kim Jong-un also paid a visit to Russia in September and invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to Pyongyang. Putin reportedly accepted the invitation, signaling his interest in expanding ties with North Korea. However, the growing cooperation between China, North Korea, and Russia is not without challenges. North Korea may try to balance its relations with both China and Russia, as it depends on China for economic support, but it also wants to diversify its sources of technology and equipment, especially in the military domain. North Korea is thus in a favorable position to exploit the rivalry between China and Russia and to gain more leverage in its negotiations with the US and its allies. There is a catch, though. The current geopolitics does not give Pyongyang much choice to hedge against Beijing and Moscow. However, such a possibility in the future cannot be ignored. In the meantime, this axis will affect Seoul, and we can already see tensions rising.